Let's see what's going to happen in this NCAA tournament.
Yeah, and again, this was just accident, okay?
I still love you. It's all good.
All right. Oh, there actually is a real Michigan grad here.
Yeah, by accident. Yeah, right. Mateen just happens to be over there. How many did you win in the regular season against Michigan?
Wow. Short memory, short memory.
Shots fired, Pete.
Right.
Shots fired.
I met the enemy that does. Right now. I'm a little angry. I said it wasn't going to bother me, but it is. Dana Jacobsen here with Pete Gillen, our coach, our insider, John Rothstein as well. And you guys haven't had a chance just to weigh in. The brackets are in. Initial reaction, John.
What was the last time you had two number 4 seeds like Louisville and Michigan State that would be trendy pick fourth? This bracket could not set up better for John Calipari. Kentucky has had a rough last couple of weeks. They played very well Sunday against Florida in the SEC title game. If Kentucky can get by a very good Kansas State team, they will play Wichita State in the round of 32, and then potentially you could have a Kentucky-Louisville Sweet 16 game in Indianapolis. The bracket could not have broken better for Kentucky.
Yeah. I think the committee did a good job. But my only problem is SMU. We had 4 top 30 wins. We did the game once. CBS we were there, okay? I was bringing coffee to the crew, but I was at the game. No, we were working the game, and SMU beat Connecticut at Connecticut with great guards, and they beat them another time, right, at home, and they beat Memphis, and they beat Cincinnati like a rented mule. So they had 4 top 30 wins. Yeah, they played a couple non-league schedule at Wyoming, pretty good team before Larry Nance got hurt. They played at Arkansas, tough place. Yeah. They played Virginia on a neutral site.
Lost against Houston, but Pete, they lost against Houston in the tournament.
All right,
but this is not an oversight by the committee. It's an absolute insult, and there's so much that goes into quality wins, RPI, wins and losses against the top 50. If SMU isn't in the NCAA tournament, it's a miscarriage of justice. Because really, when you evaluate the most
John's
important
my attorney.
thing,
He's helping.
No, when you evaluate,
somebody's always left out.
When you evaluate the most important thing, can you play? Can you advance against the field? SMU has done that time and time again. This team wasn't just good enough to make the NCAA tournament. They were good enough to advance in the NCAA tournament. It is an absolute shame that the Mustangs are not in the field of 68.
Somebody is always left off the list. We're going to take a look, actually, by conference, the way things fell out, because we heard much earlier, obviously, from Coach K about the 8th in the evening. Greg Gumbel got things set up with the guys over in the CBS studio across the way. Greg?
All right, Dana, thank you. But for now, Dana, back across the hall to you in Studio 44.
All right, Greg, thank you. And, I mean, they talked about so much. We are going to break the brackets down, by the way, region by region. I want to go back to what we were talking about before in the snub. And if you are going to put SMU in, who are you going to take out?
Well, it's tough, but I would have to go NC State. I love Mark Godfrey, the coach. NC State is great, terrific coach. But not too many big wins. They beat the Cuse, who's all beat up. They're all mangled, right, in the tournament. And they beat at Pitt. And Pitt's, erratic. So I think they're a fine team. But SMU beat 4 top 30 teams. They beat UConn at UConn with your Shabazz Napier, your cousin, who you love uncontrollably. So, and they got the best coach alive, dead, or yet.
Look, everybody wants to see Larry Brown in there. Nobody can argue that.
I would say BYU. I would have taken SMU over
I agree with
BYU. Now, BYU has several good non-conference wins. They beat Texas on the neutral floor. They won at Stanford, and they beat Gonzaga, but that's only 3. SMU has 4, and they play in a better league. The West Coast Conference should have been a 1-bid league. The AAC should have been a 5-bid league. It's a miscarriage of justice that Larry Brown and SMU left out of the field of 68. Because if you haven't watched SMU, you're really missing out on a team that could win in the field.
Not as good away from home, though. You got to. I'm not saying that they shouldn't be there, but they do have the knocks against them.
Yeah, but Dana, they won a game at Gamble Pavilion against UConn, who's a 7 seed right now. If you're good enough to beat UConn and the best
guard, Syracuse is a higher seed as well. So you talk about Syracuse on the decline.
If you're good
enough,
make the case
either way.
My name's Wes. I got my own.
If you're good enough to beat Connecticut, who has the best guard in the country in Shabazz Napier, with a Hall of Famer in Jim Calhoun on press row, you're good enough to play in the NCAA tournament. It's just a fact of life, okay?
It is a miscarriage of justice.
It is a miscarriage of justice.
We're going to take a quick break so we can all calm down about it. Well, not really. We're all okay about it. But coming up on March Madness Bracket Breakdown presented by Reese's, the first... dive a little bit deeper into the bracket. We're going to start with the South region, with Florida. It was interesting. If you look at it by seed, second toughest, not the toughest, and the one that everybody knew was getting in there.
Right.
We know about Florida. Go ahead, John. Break it down for us, at least the early action that we're going to see.
All right, I will obviously take Florida over the winner of Albany and Mount St. Mary's right there, and then Boston. The world wants to pick Stephen F. Austin.
They've won 28 straight games.
How many
John?
on-ball defenders in the Southland were comparable to Briante Weber? None. VCU advances. UCLA and Tulsa, the Bruins have been running downhill. Jordan Adams, again, was terrific against Arizona.
Florida there. I agree with John. I hate to do it, but I agree
think
with him.
most of the country does. You're safe on that one.
No, I like that. And, I like UCLA also getting that far. And once again, Stephen F. Austin's a trendy pick, but I'm going to go with the Rams of VCU. I think they're pressure D. Disappointed they didn't win the A-10 tournament. I go with them, so I go that far.
You are allowed. We look at the bottom. We see Kansas as the 2 seed. Who do you like, Pete, in this one?
Well, I'm going to go, first of all, Ohio State over Dayton. That's scary. 2 Ohio schools there. Syracuse, I think, is going to beat Western Michigan. Ohio State and Syracuse are there, and then we get New Mexico and Kansas. Those 4 right there. And going further.
Well,
okay.
we'll take you a step further in just a minute. I want to focus in, though, on Kansas right now. And no Joel Embiid, we know, at least until we get to the Sweet 16. Possible that we may see him come back. And let's take a look at the Alka-Seltzer player to watch. That would be Joel Embiid. Watching whether he's on the bench or whether...
Mexico go into the Sweet 16, beating Kansas, only because Joel Embiid is not going to be 100%, if at all, is he going to play.
Pete, you've said it many times. You're a great American, but now you have a right to be wrong. Okay.
I do, and Mexico go into the Sweet 16, beating Kansas, only because Joel Embiid is not going to be 100%, if at all, is he going to play.
Pete, you've said it many times. You're a great American, but now you have a right to be wrong. Okay.
I do, and I exercise that right, John.
New Mexico is a terrific basketball team. I've loved them all year out of the Mountain West. But people forget that Tariq Black, Jamari Traylor, and also Perry Ellis combined for 22 points and 29 rebounds when Kansas beat Oklahoma State in the Big 12 quarterfinals. They have capable players behind Joel Embiid, and they also have more athleticism at the 2 and the 3 spot with Andrew Wiggins and Wayne Selden. Kansas, again, for all of a sudden, has fallen off the radar right now.
Well,
to me, I understand that, but they have more than enough talent on their roster to get to the second weekend without Joel Embiid. I agree with everything up to that point. I think Ohio State will beat Dayton. I like Syracuse, but I think that Kansas advances and gets to a matchup with Syracuse.
All right. Well, we have at least one upset pick here with the 7, New Mexico moving on. Adam, I don't know if the gentleman at the desk would agree or perhaps disagree like our own John Rothstein.
Well, no.
Arizona may not have won the Pac-12 tournament, but they got the #1 overall seed after taking the Pac-12 regular season, and Arizona is where we go next. The #1 seed in the West region. We've fixed things up a little bit, making some of these guys go first. Wally and Coach Steve Lapis here with us, and we'll start with the West at the top. Arizona, pretty safe bet that everybody's moving Arizona over, but I'll let you say it on your own.
2 good defenses, 2 good period. Just move them on. Let's go from there.
State and now Oklahoma, North Dakota State. Sorry, Coach.
You know, this is going to be a good game. North Dakota State is also a team that can score. So Oklahoma and North Dakota State will go up and down the floor. Lon Kruger's team, one of the highest scoring teams in the San Diego State team. If you have not seen them defend yet, are as good a defense.
You look like you're in full agreement.
I'm in full agreement. This is very rare.
Whoa!
Maybe I could have played for you.
No shot at the 12-5 upset maybe that we could see with a team
Not
that likes
this
to take
bracket.
care of the ball, doesn't turn it over.
Let's see what Lap has moving forward. He might have
Yeah, that's true.
Come on. I want some disagreement here. All right.
Although you'll get it now.
All right. We'll go to the bottom half of the bracket then in the West region. And Wally, we'll give you the first crack at this one.
Okay.
Here we go.
Yeah, we'll go to the bottom here.
With full agreement on the top of it. Maybe
Baylor, Wisconsin is a trendy pick for me, going a long way.
SMU, so clearly Oregon has to move on in this.
This is a momentous occasion. I'm only going to disagree on one.
All right, Coach, we'll give you your crack at
that's the first one, Baylor, Nebraska. I just don't trust Baylor. And if Corey Jefferson, and that Teron Petaway is going to be a tough cover. He's 6'7". He was one of the leading scorers in the Big Ten. I'm going to go with Nebraska, but I agree with everything else that Wally has there.
Everything else except Nebraska and instead of Baylor. What about Creighton if there's a weakness, though? And I know that taking them as a pick, I'm sure a lot of people will. Not many will take Louisiana to get the upset there. But what is Creighton's weakness right now?
Bigs. I think that's the big problem. I saw him yesterday live. Doug McDermott's really the guy who has to anchor their defense. Ethan Rogge's a perimeter big guy, and he's not that tall. So I think if they match up against a team that's really strong inside, that could be a problem.
going to disagree with you guys and say we might see a North Dakota State upset. That's just me. We'll send it back. I'm just going to say, you know, it doesn't matter what I think, though. Let's see what the rest of the guys think, Adam.
Well, Dana, a follow-up to your comment there. If Lapp and Wally do the fist pounding in celebration of their agreement, what would you tell us if I told you that John Rothstein also likes North Dakota State?
That cross
Fist pound,
the
Dana.
studio fist pound.
Fist
right
pound. North
There's
Dakota
love again.
State won a game this year at Notre Dame when Jerry and Grant was in the line.
Wichita State, you go 34-0, and for your efforts, you get the toughest bracket, the toughest region out there. It's got all 4 Final Four teams from last year. And here to break down the Midwest, John Ross, Eugene Cleves back here. A miscarriage of justice.
The company
what it
of
was
greatness
for Wichita
right now.
State.
A March hero.
I'm Midwest,
I
so
got
this is cool.
All right, let's start with the top here, Mateen, and break things down for Wichita State.
Well, I got Texas Southern beating Cal Poly, and Mike Davis did a phenomenal job. North Carolina State beating Xavier, big-time scorer, and Warren, one of the best scorers in the country. Might be the second best scorer in the country besides McDermott. But St. Louis, they defend. Seniors on that team, so I'm going to go St. Louis in that one. Then Louisville, Manhattan. I just met Manhattan. The team
Face off, St. Louis and Louisville, and who are winning those games?
Ooh, and this one hurts me so bad. Shocker, fans, excuse me, but it's hard to go against the experience of Louisville. I just think they got a better playmaker when you got Russ Smith. So
Before you
I'm sorry. I'm all over the place.
That's all right.
Wichita State's going to beat Kentucky out before
It was the no-brainer. Come on, everybody's.
But instead of playing the Shockers in Indianapolis, 16, everybody has wanted to see Wichita State play higher-level competition. They will now face the most dominant physical, the ultimate challenge in the Sweet 16 in Indianapolis, Kentucky and
All right,
Louisville.
John, you get to start on the bottom and get your first whack at it. Go ahead.
I like Tennessee to beat Iowa in the play-in game, and then I like the
First-round game.
I like them to right there, and then that sets up Texas and Michigan. I hemmed and hawed on this one a little bit, but I trust John Beilein in tournament situations right now. I think Texas has been a little erratic in the backcourt. I'm going with Duke to play Michigan in the Sweet.
When he got the Michigan over Texas.
Whoa.
I like Beilein, and I like what they're doing, but I think the side.
Texas is a good pick.
I think somebody has something against the Wolverines. That actually, Adam, and maybe the guys at the desk will defend me.
This game, this is when it finally catches up to him?
He's getting a little cocky now. That's what happens.
It's like there were leaves on the trees when Mitch McGarry got hurt.
30 years ago, back in 1984, Virginia had an awfully memorable run to the Elite Eight, eventually losing to Houston. Now in 2014, they just followed up with, regular season win in the ACC and then winning the conference tournament. And, oh, yeah, that #1 seed in Virginia, as we want to turn our attention right now as we get East Region focused. Pete, awfully close to you, this Virginia program, and it's time now for tonight's Protection Where It Matters Most, brought to you by
Dana, Steve, they hold their opponent to 55 points a game, which is unreal, and they also hold team to 38% from the field, so they pack it in tempo. They walk the ball up, they anesthetize. I don't know what the word means. They said use a big word if you're experimental mission site at CCNY, but you're smarter than me. But my point is they
won the conference tournament. Michigan lost their conference tournament. They got the #1 seed in the Big East, and that's what we want to do is we want to break down the East. I said the Big East. They won the East. It is the Big East for them when you look at this bracket here. You also have Nova in the region, Iowa State as well, Michigan State. Those are the top 4 seeds. Let's start at the top, Pete. Break it down for us. Who's winning those first few games?
Well, I go Virginia once again, playing unbelievable player, one of the top 5 in the country, but he needs a little bit more help.
One's not enough.
One's not enough. And Michigan State, I got Mateen as my idol, so I got to go with Michigan State. Moving on to Harvard right there, and then Virginia, Memphis. Once again, Virginia's going to put them to sleep. They're going to, Memphis is going to go crazy, but
Back before
it's Bronx and Brooklyn now. It's
Before the Harvard, Michigan State, and see what happens.
Well, I think that I think that George Washington is going to beat Memphis. Memphis's guards have not
Maybe that they deserve.
yeah,
Well,
Mike Lonigan's done a great job.
Yeah.
You're right.
done a great job. He's a heck of a coach, and they have a lot of experience on their shoulder, and they're going to get into Harvard. And the question is how. I have actually GW winning that.
Wow.
No, I'm
Virginia,
going all
one
over the
seat
place.
out.
Well,
You want a board of directors there?
Virginia is a great defensive team. There's no doubt, but I think they're going to have a game where they just can't score. And I think it's the type of thing where if they can get through that game,
Right.
you can see them in the Final Four. I just think they're going to have trouble at some point scoring, and I think it could be that.
They take on Michigan State.
And they'll take on Michigan
All
State.
right, we'll take you to the bottom. Then you get to break it down first.
Pete
And
gets to
Pete can
kill me.
counter exactly.
Oh, no, I'm neutral.
Villanova, the 2 down here, is the highest seed.
Villanova's going to win that game. I mean, they've had such an unbelievable He's been a little inconsistent. I like Providence to move on in that game. Iowa State beat St. Joe's there in a tough game.
And sets it up with Villanova.
Sets it up with Villanova, all-time Big East game. Villanova, UConn. We had a few.
You
of
coach
those.
a lot of those.
I was in a lot of those. Tough game, no doubt about it. I think Jay Wright has done one of the best coaching jobs that he's done. That's why I'm picking UConn. Villanova, from a talent standpoint, is good. Not
They've
great.
overachieved
They've
this year.
overachieved.
Pete, you see it that way?
Well, I agree with Steve. I think the Friars are going to upset North Carolina. I think Bryce Cotton is one of the best.
Election Sunday with the brackets out. What would the big dance be without a Cinderella? You know, the guys with some...
Louisville, Michigan State as well to all get in there. I can't think of a better way to end these hours together with you all week than a big selfie to wrap it up.
Gotta get the
Good.
retweet.